All right, my handful of followers. I told you these videos would be coming fast and furious because I have a ton of shit to talk about. And, well, let's get right into it. 5 more things up. First one, a book from the Star Wars High Republic series that I've been delving into over the last while. This one called Mission to Disaster. Now, this is obviously one of the ones for the younger readers, but if it's Star Wars, I read it. I don't care if it's for like one of those kids books where it's like learning how to read. See Luke fly his X-wing, right? Like I'll read it, you know. So in this one, now this one's fuzzy because I read it so long ago, and there's so much High Republic stuff I've read lately that it's all kind of blurring together. But Jedi Knight Vernestra Rowe, who factors into some other stories before that I read before this, she is looking forward to some downtime to train her new Padawan Imri Kantaros, I think his name is, after the Jedi had seemingly driven off the Nihil pirates, or whatever you want to call them, that have been causing all this trouble all over the galaxy in previous adventures. They think they've pretty much defeated them. They think they have their leader Lorna D on the run. Little do they know she's not the leader of the Nihil. It's Marchion Ro, and he's got something up his sleeve, and he's just keeping quiet for now. So the Jedi are kind of a little complacent at this point. But soon enough, the Nihil raid a outpost called Port Halep, and this is where Avra, oh no, what was her name? Yeah, Avar? No, that's Avar, that's the Jedi. Oh crap, now I can't remember. What's her name? Avon Staros. She's a young child that has dealt with the Jedi in previous adventures and is a friend of Vernestra, and whose mom is actually a senator or something like that. So and this is Port Halep is where Avon lives, and so the Nihil have raided this place, and in the process taken Avon captive. So Vernestra and Imri race to Port Halep in an effort to uncover this Nihil plot and rescue their friend. And in the meantime, Avon is working the Nihil from the inside, and they want Avon for some reason, and she's not sure. So she's kind of working side by side because she's such a smart kid scientifically. She's working alongside this kind of mad scientist the Nihil have in their employ, who have developed a lot of, I think, their weapons and stuff like that. So Avon is working side by side with this mad doctor, but of course attempting to divert and sabotage the Nihil work by doing so. So she's kind of working from the Nihil from the inside and buying time and trying to help, while Vernestra and Imri are on their way trying to fight to rescue her and uncover what the Nihil are really up to in the grand scheme of things. So good book. They've all been good books. It's just hard to keep, like I said, it's hard to keep them all straight because there's so many, all these characters cross the same things, and sometimes when I'm reading the books, some of them are over here, some of them take place, then I read one that takes place before it. So I'm just kind of bouncing all around, and I'm having problems keeping them all straight in my head. I'd like to line them all up once I'm done reading them and kind of be like, okay, yeah, okay, that's the way it all went. But I won't. So next up, another book, The Empty Chair by Jeffrey Deaver. I've read a bunch of his books. My mom always picked up Jeffrey Deaver books for me, and this one stars Deaver's classic characters, the quadriplegic, I think it is, Detective Lincoln Rhyme, and his partner Amelia Sachs. So they're actually in North Carolina, where Lincoln is looking into a medical procedure that's very risky, could solve or greatly lessen his quadriplegic state, or if it goes badly, make it even worse and basically be like a death sentence. So Amelia is kind of wrestling with this decision for him to do it. I mean, he's like, I don't care, I want it done, whatever. But before they can even get to the procedure, they are approached by a sheriff in this local town named Jim Bell, who has, I think, a cousin or something like that, some sort of relative on the force Lincoln works on in New York, who has told them he's in town. And so they come to Lincoln with for help because there is an unsolved kind of murder case going on in the area. And even though they know, or they think they know who the suspect is, they want Lincoln's input and help with the situation and tracking this person down. So basically, a girl has been abducted and eventually was murdered, I believe, or believed murdered. And the prime suspect is a young kid named Garrett. I can't remember how old he is. I want to say he's like 14 or 15 or something like that. I don't remember exactly. Again, I read this like 6 months ago. So, and so they call him the Insect Boy, locally, because he's obsessed with bugs and he's always out in nature and like he's just a weird kid. And so one of the people that was murdered was actually stung by like hundreds of hornets and died because of that. So, there's all this evidence pointing towards Garrett. So they eventually, Lincoln and Amelia working the crime scenes and figuring things out, eventually track Garrett down, bring him in. But during the questioning and all that stuff, Amelia starts to believe Garrett's innocent and starts to believe some of the things he's saying about this guy in tan pants or something like that who's really responsible for the murders. And but Lincoln is determined that Garrett is the culprit. So it kind of drives a wedge between Lincoln and Amelia going forward, and she kind of goes rogue with Garrett. Well, Lincoln tries to get her to see reason and come back and bring her in. So it all kind of the rest of the action all unfolds in the North Carolina swamp where shit hits the fan and people die, I think. Yeah. So, but they get to the bottom of it eventually, as Lincoln Rhyme always seems to do. So it's all good. Next up, a video game. Oh, wait a minute. Stupid case. There we go. I'll sort it out. For my Nintendo Switch, developed by Outright Games, it is Need for Speed Spy Racers: The Rise of Shifter. So, this is a pretty basic game. I think it's meant for everybody to play. And basically, there's this organization called Shifter, a criminal organization that's attempting to, exert their influence and spread and take over as much as they possibly can, of course. The Spy Racers are a team of young drivers who are employed by some mysterious lady. I don't know if it's the government or whatever, but they are mobilized to counteract Shifter. And basically, over the course of the game, you have to partake in these series of races in, I think, 5 different locations across the globe. And in these races, take down Shifter. And of course, you have weapons and gadgets that you can use during the races. And each racer has their own kind of signature move or kind of weapon that they can utilize. And Tony Toretto is one of the main characters, one of the spy racers that you can race with. So it is tied into Need for Speed loosely, right? Like, this is obviously some sort of descendant of Dom Toretto. So it was a fun game. It was worth the purchase, but it was like I said, pretty basic. There is some unlockable content to it and stuff like that, but it's pretty basic, pretty straightforward, pretty not one-dimensional, but it is what it is, right? There's no real extra like modes that make it different from the main mode, that gives it any sort of like replayability or depth to it. But I don't think it's that expensive of a game. I can't remember actually. But it is worth a play if you like racing games, if you're a fan of the Fast and the Furious franchise, even though it's very loosely tied into it. It's a fun game. Everybody can play it, like I said. And it's just, it's also very short. It was over very quickly. So sometimes I don't mind short games though, right? You can chew through them. You feel like if you accomplish something quickly, right? So, good game. However, I have 2 more games that blow that out of the water. And the first one, which I waited for what seemed like forever, I don't have a case for it because I downloaded it to my Switch, and it is none other than the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Shredder's Revenge. This title was developed by Tribute Games and was released just a handful of months ago. I downloaded it right away because I'd been watching it it got delayed a couple times. It seems like it took forever to come out. So I was watching it forever, and they finally came out with that final release date. I downloaded it that day and got right into it. It's a Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles game that's it's based in like that 8-bit kind of look. Even though it's a new game, it's got that 8-bit kind of look, and it looks very, very close or even identical to if you ever played the second Ninja Turtles game for the NES, the one that kind of spoofed the arcade game, the Turtles arcade game. It looked identical to that, and it played the same. It had a lot of the same looking foot soldiers. It was very closely tied into that game, and that's not a bad thing. That's a fantastic thing because that game's amazing. So it's basically just like a new story and a new game based on that style. So the story behind it is that the Turtles and April and Splinter are watching the TV one night and the news when they see on the news, oh, Bebop and the Foot are raiding the Statue of Liberty. So the Turtles mobilize to go stop this. They show up at the Statue of Liberty. They find Bebop, and he's got Krang's, his Krang's big robot body. They've got that head of that. He's got that head of the body in his hand, and he's whatever. So the Turtles kind of take Bebop on, but in the meantime, the head is taken away from the scene. So the Turtles set off after that to try and track down Krang's head because they know obviously he's up to no good. So they're gonna have to, hey, if we have Krang's robot head, good for us. That'll make things easier, right? So as they go on this adventure, they find with each stop and each boss they face, oh, there's another piece of Krang's robot body that they're able to obtain, sort of thing, right? Or at least go after. And so it goes on and on and on, and eventually, though, you find out that this little mission of finding Krang's body parts may just have been a diversion by Krang and Shredder and the Foot Clan. So, and then in the end, you have to, find out what the true scheme is that they've been up to, and then of course face them down and save the day. So this game was really fun. The only thing I didn't like about it is that it's got a fair number of levels, a decent number of levels, but you seem to get through them really quick. Like, it seemed like a short, quick game to play. But it didn't matter because it was just so much fun. So much fun. It's been so long since they've released a new Turtles game, especially one that harkens back to the glory days of the NES and the Turtles games back then. So it was so much fun. And you can choose any of the 4 Turtles, and as you go along, you can unlock a few characters like April, Splinter, and Casey Jones. And the more you play with one character, the more you upgrade them and the more powerful they become. So there are some things that keeps you playing through the game a number of times, which helps kind of spread out and lengthen that short aspect of the game into more. Yeah, it doesn't even matter because it's just honestly so much fun that it doesn't even matter. So if you like 8-bit side-scrolling beat-em-up games, and if you like the Turtles, either or both, just buy the game. Last up, another game I downloaded to my Switch, recommended to me by my buddy Simon that I play video games with every week. And I don't know how he found it, but he did. It was probably on sale because we always look at the sale page, and maybe it just piqued his fancy or whatever, but he texted me immediately after he downloaded it and started playing it, and he says, you have to download this, it's fantastic. And so I did, and the game in question is called Huntdown. Huntdown takes place in the future after like a World War III type event, when society has kind of crumbled a little bit. Mega corporations basically rule everything, and so the police don't have much power. Gangs rule the streets. It's just kind of chaos. Like, just stepping out onto the street as a normal citizen, it's like, oh, just somebody just shot me, I'm dead. Like, it's just a dangerous, crazy time. And so you star as one of 3 bounty hunters. Johnny something, an ex-cop, this mercenary named Anaconda, and then this cyborg guy named Moman. You can pick from one of three of those, and it is 2 players, so you can go into it with 2 of those guys with a friend, which is amazing. So you are hired by one of these mega corporations to wipe out 4 different gangs. Wipe them off the face of the streets because they're honing in on the mega corporation's territory and causing them some troubles. So they want these guys to disappear. And you are contacted by this mysterious woman that you have obviously worked with in the past. And that plot line will unfold as the game evolves, and you'll see what happens in the end. But you basically set out into these 4 different areas, which comprise, I think each world has maybe 4 or 5 levels, something like that, and each world has a gang that has a theme behind it. I can't remember exactly what they all are, but my favorite one by far, what were they called? Oh, the Goons or something like that, or no, but they were a hockey themed gang. So like they were all wearing like hockey jerseys and they had sticks and stuff like that. One of the mini bosses you face along the way is called Unholy Goalie, and it's just a fucking jacked guy with these old Cooper Brown pads and shit like that. It's just awesome. It's just a wacky game, and the stuff they say is the quips they all say. It's just hilarious. Such a fun game to play, and there's hordes of different weapons you can pick up when you defeat people. They'll drop stuff using rocket launchers and flamethrowers and different types of machine guns and shit like that. It's pandemonium. And it's just so much fun. It's such a cool idea for a game, and it just, everything about it is amazing. It's a good length too, even though there's only 4 worlds. It does have some difficulty to it. It's not impossible, but you do have to, especially as you get later in the game, really kind of buckle down and hone your skills and put them to the test. But it's just, again, it's just like Turtles. It's not as short as Turtles, but it's just so much fun to play through this game that you just want to keep playing it over and over again. And I did for a while. I played a lot. I tried to do all the other modes as much as I was able to, and just drag this game out for as long as possible because it is just simply so much fun. So if I could, anything out of this 5-some, if I was to guarantee or recommend you do anything, it would be those 2 games. Forget the other 3 things. They were great. But those 2 games are 2 of the best games I've played over the last little while, and they are so much fun. So, what I would do is I would put them on your wish list and wait for them to go down in price, because that's what I'm doing now, and it's nice. You get a little email from Nintendo. Oh, one of the games you're watching has gone down in price. Great. Buy it. Get it. Done. Right? So, buy those 2 games. You will not be disappointed.